hand towels there, so let's go ahead and once you have some of you start to grab some stuff, I'll do some introductions so we're not all wandering around. So some of you folks in the back will go ahead and grab some pizza. Or not. Okay, very flexible. Let me go ahead and welcome you to DNewTech 2012. This is our third meeting of the fourth now. God, I'm losing track of time. We have a 1-year anniversary. We last December, actually, so we've got traction. We need you to sign up 7 more of your friends, and then we'll have 600 members that have signed up. So that's a great accomplishment. So thank you, and thank all of your associates. I think you're familiar with the program. We'll have our keynote speaker. We won't have 5 entrepreneurs today. We'll have 3. Some scheduling difficulties, but we'll do those later. Before we get started, I want to thank all of our sponsors. For those of you, Tom's going to have you stop, switch the speakers for a moment, and then we'll stop the rotation. So, Core Merchants is one of our newest sponsors. Ripple, Blue Water Angels, Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, Biz2U, Quicken Loans, Mental Note Online, you can use the cool t-shirts here, and of course TechTown, our hometown sponsor. So there are a few of us here that are members of TechTown, so we love coming back home as it were. Our keynote speaker, Jason, I'll introduce in a second. I think Jason, where are you?
I'm right here.
Okay. Jason, you're going to speak for an hour or an hour and a half? I forget what your time is.
2 minutes.
Jason will speak for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then please ask all kinds of questions that you want. So we want to keep this open. This is definitely not an informal type of setup. After that, we'll go with our 3 entrepreneurs, and remember our format. It's 5 minutes of presentation, 5 minutes of Q&A. So we're looking forward to another really good evening. So Jason, why don't you come on up? As Jason's coming up, he's the founder of Benzinga. He's a passionate entrepreneur. This is his 3rd successful company. They've all been successful. This is his latest and largest. His first 5 months, he grew to over 50 active members. He's got background working for Merrill Lynch, Street.com, and TriCap Holdings. They're a financial media company. I'm sure he'll tell you more about what he's doing. The key is going to have 3 million readers in over 125 countries. If you catch him on a good day, he'll probably tell you all 125 that he has membership in. Of course he can. So I'm going to stop here and let Jason talk about what he's doing, and thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks everyone. I mean, coming, and I'm looking forward to speaking, and I hope you guys have questions. A little bit about my background, so again, like you described.
Hey Jason,
yeah.
can you speak up a little bit, because I think we're trying to give you live streaming here.
Okay.
Talk to me, Jason.
I will speak up a lot of it. So I'm the founder of Benzinga. Prior to, I'll get to Benzinga in a second before I just give you a little bit more about my background. I was always a startup junkie, almost a CEO junkie. I was emailing CEOs and wanted to learn how they got to where they got. I was in my teens wondering how these guys became the leader of C-level suites. I couldn't figure that out. There was no roadmap. I wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer. I knew the steps to take. And so when I pursued that path, I'm like, should I go to grad school? Should I? But I always had this thing where I wanted to start a company or turn around failing companies. So as long as I can remember, I was reaching out to people I talked to on the phone, just for credibility. Or I was a guy from Bobby Kotick. He's the guy that started Activision, or not? Yeah, he started Activision. The Tony Hawk series. Steve Jobs back in 2000. These are people that are everything now. With everyone being accessible, these guys are a click away. You just have to figure out you're able to get to them. But by reaching out to those guys at such a young age, I was able to learn. I had like an unfair advantage in the sense that I heard, straight to my ear from some of the most successful people in the world how they executed and built stuff from nothing. They created something from nothing. That's what Bobby Kotick did. Steve Witt, who was his mentor, gave his money, and that's the guy from the casinos. So those were influences. I'm like, you know what? These guys just took those steps. They had a dream, a passion, and they went and executed it. I'm like, I can do that. And so when I was in college, I'm like, what can I start? It was 97 or 98. I'm like, there should be, a way to, I was tired of buying textbooks online and paying a high price, so I started an online textbook store. And in 6 months, we did over 10,000 textbooks to over 1,000 customers. And it was just me in my dorm room, and then I brought on some more people. It was growing. We almost had the CO orders on our board. It was my first attempt at, my first real attempt. Before that, I had other things. It was my first real attempt at a startup that was growing, had sales, was profitable. So I got the cost low. It was just me. And so I was really low. Then it became 2 other people, but they were on for equity. But I learned a lot from that. I couldn't be doing this if I didn't do that. I learned what I'm really bad at. I mean, there's like 25 students that got free textbooks from us. So I gave just because we had an automatic, so people ordered, it would automatically get shipped to the distributor and the order would get sent. But when the distributor didn't have textbooks, I could call the publisher and get another 30% off directly. I should never have taken those orders, but because I was a startup and I didn't want to, forgo revenue, I manually did those. And so sometimes I didn't get around to charging the people. Well, that's the first thing you should do. But I was so focused on providing the best service ever. I've always believed, be the best. So, I know people say stuff like, be like a concierge. I wanted to be their textbook concierge. And that's how we're doing this company. And it works. We have people that, when you go to the doctor, if they tell you something's wrong, you just trust them. That's it, right? There's no question. Yeah, you go to another doctor, and that's where we are trying to position our company. And it's hard to do that because you have no credibility. No one knows you, so you have to quickly create a brand name. So that was before getting to this company. Raznick-Benzinga, I had this college book zone, and then that morphed into something. Each order I would make on average $7, $10, and off 1,000 orders, I think that's $7,000. There's that's not huge numbers. And I did guerrilla marketing. So you go into a Michigan Notre Dame game, I had those airplanes fly over, I had signs going up to the game. That whole marketing, signs of the game, airplane cost me under $400. Just all the day up, and I said, okay, this is what I'll pay you. They did it. So those are things I was always really good at guerrilla marketing and getting names out for really cheap. And then I was one of the early guys in online dating. I had every single niche and city and state for people looking to date. And I was in college, I was tired of the fixed costs or variable costs. When you ship a textbook, it cost me $47 and I sell it for $53. How much money can you really make? So I'm like, what would a young person pay for online? I didn't want to get into the porn business. I'm like, I was single, I'm like, they see a girl, they would pay to connect. So it was a no-brainer, and that company grew really quick. This was before Google AdSense and getting the ad revenue. But again, it was me with one partner who's outside the country, and it helped me solidify what my things I'm great at, things I'm bad at. And then when I got to, I'll get more into Benzinga now. So fast forward a few years, I sold some of these businesses. I sold the database on one of them, sold the website URLs on another to another online dating company. But when I got to Benzinga, I knew what I was good at and what I was bad at. So what I tried to do immediately was to prove out that I have a model here. Because someone in the back just asked me, or didn't ask me, we started a company, and there's 4 ways that he could make revenue, and I just said, go with the easiest. Go with the absolute most easiest thing that you could possibly imagine, just to try to prove out your model. The guy had this theory that if our company can make $18 a day or $22 a day from Google ad revenue, I should go do it full time. And then it did $60 a day within 2 weeks of starting or something like that. And I'm like, why aren't I doing this full time yet? And then I eventually did. But I did this simple, most easiest thing to test out the market. And I know that the lean startup methods, they call that, the MVP, just get that out there. And that's, I guess, before all this terminology, that's what I did from learning from other mistakes where I spent a long time doing research and, did a lot of research on my startups. And research is good, but at the end of the day, research doesn't give you any sort of customers, any sort of revenue. It's good to get you, knowledgeable about the subject you're doing. But I was this was back in 2001, I was doing 80% research, 20% execution. I would say in this thing here, I'm doing 80% execution, 20% research. So you'll make more mistakes along the way here, but mistakes are great. Like, I love people making mistakes and you learn from them. Like, that's, we're at a company that people make mistakes. Whenever you walk out, make better mistakes tomorrow. So we even have a contest who can make more mistakes in a good way. We have these different contests, and it's fun because people are nervous just by nature to do stuff that they think they're going to get a no on, and that is so like the opposite for me. I don't want no's, but if I'm not getting a couple no's a day, then I'm not doing something right. Because I told you the two guys I talked to on the phone, but you can imagine like, well, that I didn't talk to on the phone. No one wanted to hear from me. They're like, Jason Raznick, you're the guy from Ann Arbor? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, we'll schedule a meeting once, okay? And then they keep pushing. You know, so those no's that I got, yeah, they hurt my ego, but whatever. I mean, egos are nothing. They're pointless. We're all dust, and we're here to make it, hopefully leave an impact on, you know, we came to this world, leave an impact on what we leave. That's all I'm trying to do. So now that was a little bit how I got to started this company, Benzinga. Benzinga is a financial media company. We take events and data and try to give trading ideas off of that. So Apple announces an iPad, new iPad. People here see Apple stock rising to 620, 610. Should I buy the stock? Should I not? It's really sometimes not the question to be asking. The question, like if you're in a hedge fund, they would already have scenarios played out for that. They'd have 3 scenarios for the bullish side, which means for the stock to go up or for the stock to go down. The scenarios may be like ETFs you could buy or things you could short or use options to hedge your strategy. So for example, the average person is long at Apple, let's say, into earnings, and they're nervous, and they own the stock. The average person will just sell some shares to take off that risk. That's not what you should do. You should use an option strategy or an ETF to hedge your position. So that way, if the stock just goes up or does this, you basically don't lose any money. You get interest on what you're doing. It's very complicated when I talk about a lot of you see what we're trying to do. And we embed this stuff in brokerages now. We consumerize it. So what we're taking is, for hedge funds and investment banks, like an investment bank is like a Morgan Stanley. The hedge fund is it's called SAC Capital, but hedge funds are like, they do these complicated strategies. What we're trying to do is take these complicated strategies and give it to the average consumer. And there's huge value in that. If you have a 401k, it just goes into the company stock plan. There's ways to empower the consumer, and I know that's a common saying, like how we're going to empower the consumer, we're going to democratize information, but that's what we do, and we didn't start that way. That's where we wanted to go. What we started was to see if we could get an audience. Once we got an audience, like, okay, now we have the eyeballs, let's deliver these eyeballs what we so wanted for so long. And a lot of it is very, very complicated and hard to do. A lot of it is using back testing and different types of technical things that are not typically, a Michigan company. This is more of a New York style company. I'm trying to prove it that we can make this thing happen in Michigan, and so far we've had some, good success and a couple new partnerships that go live May 1st that are really big and we're happy about. And then like at the end of July or August, we're going to be on a lot of platforms that we'll be in front of like 50 million eyeballs daily, which is just, not everyone's going to look at our stuff, but we'll be on these platforms, which is just crazy for a company that I started in my basement 2 years ago. And I don't know, how are we on time?
We're doing fine.
Okay. I have like 5 minutes left, or I don't know. Am I talking too long here, guys?
No, you're good, and the volume's good.
All right. So I was in my basement, and I was like, okay, I wanted to start this thing. And I had pictures of it. There's this, we look up Fox Business Puzzle a lot better. Fox did a 5-minute thing with me. They came in my basement, looked at how I started it. But on my walls, I had like goals. So 30,000 page views a day by month 3. 60,000 by month 5, 100,000 by month, I did goals, and if I'm not hitting them or exceeding them, then this is maybe not the right thing to do. This is where we should maybe do something else. And it was important for me to have goals, because if I just got in this business and didn't have any metrics for myself, then it was like, what am I doing here? I'm just making myself thinking that I'm being productive, and I'm really not, because I was doing that before. I worked on a mobile payment startup with a cell phone in 2002. Met with the CEO of American Express, with Harvey Blue. It was crazy. I knew nothing about mobile, but I read anything you could possibly imagine about mobile payments. And I fooled myself into thinking that I was productive. Because if I went into a room, I knew everything you want to know about mobile payments, and this is in 2002, way before people talk about it. But at the end of the day, I didn't do anything with mobile payments, you know? So I really try to fool myself with, you know, when I'm doing a startup. I try to, you know, sort of put myself like on a scale, like, are we going to keep doing this and going down that route? We like to try a lot of things and then see, you know, what works and what doesn't. So when we started Benzinga, it was just this site that provided trade ideas. It was called the Trade Idea Network. After 2 months, 3 months, we started talking to consumers, and they were like, we like real-time news. So we created this real-time news feed that's probably not scrolling down, but it goes all day. There's probably 500 headlines. We powered from Michigan and Chicago with headlines from press wires, but we're also breaking stories. So like these companies now are calling us on certain things. So the Wall Street Journal and Reuters and AP are like the typical place that breaks stories. We focus on a specific market niche, and it's created a little bit of name in that area. Where Reuters, where Ameritrade, Schwab, and these places, trade station, they've become customers. Dow Jones are customers of ours, which is crazy because when I started the company, the first month I wanted to bring in revenue, and I would be calling these companies trying to get them to talk to me on the phone. They wouldn't, and I would call using a different name. Hi, this is Jeff Johnson in a different voice. Because, hi, this is Michael Douglas. Hi, this is, maybe I'm going to try celebrities thing. Maybe they'll pay attention. Hi, this is Mike Douglas, you know. And that right there is fake it till you make it. Because they're not going to talk to Jason Raznick. I don't talk to myself in the third person, but I'm just giving this analogy. So, they're not going to talk to me, or if they hear Jason Raznick calling them, and he's the founder, and he's the everything. They're like, okay, this company's too small. So, you know, it's sort of like, this is like old school, like everyone does this kind of thing. You have to, you know, be bigger than what you are. Just have to be. I mean, even what we're doing in Detroit, like we're at, right? We're not even close to that yet, but we're en route to that. But we have to talk it bigger so people do want to come here. And I've had a lot of people that contact me and said, "This is so exciting what's going on in Detroit. It's awesome." But it gets out there because build it. You build that dream. You have to build a dream. If you don't build a dream, it's hard to get that people listen to you. So that first 3 months was really hard to get a deal. And even doing like, it was very hard. But we got one or two, and then you just keep going and executing, and we got more deals, and now things are starting to sort of trickle in, where we're not just going after it, we get some phone calls. And that's, you know, that's very gratifying for being a company that's been around for only, you know, 2 years, and especially in the media business, because you can. So a lot of questions I get asked. This whole site changes on Monday, by the way. So it's not going to exist anymore, Benzinga. It'll be a completely different site. I think I'll log into the. What I'm trying to find one thing, so you can't find anything that's very, very picky about these things. The consumer side is one side of our website. A lot of what we make revenue is licensing and the B2B side of our business. So companies come to us, they want to license what we do, our content. And content, people like laugh at those really content providers, but content can be a great business because you can produce the content once and sell it a lot of times over. So it's, you know, a company business where you produce it once and have, you know, the same content is sold in 100, 200 different places. So that is a huge advantage of being a content type business. One thing I wanted to talk about is that when you create these businesses, you know, you come up with a little pivoting. That's the word that everyone talks about, pivoting. I don't think pivoting is like, what happened is we started this company, we realized by talking to customers or by seeing the demand or going to this one area, like, okay, wait, if we did this would change our business. And that's what's happened over the last few months. We have this product platform that's coming out. You know the way to do that one, but I feel like I should just wait and let them show, you know, do a big launch on it. And it solves a huge problem in the industry. But we learned about it by talking to all these other publishers and all these other customers. It's a huge problem. Like we have big portals that are like very excited about what we're doing. And that's all because we're in the business of executing and making mistakes. We've never been into what we're doing without executing and making mistakes. Through that, executing and having phone conversations with these places, we're starting to do work for hedge funds. And that's where I've had a problem because we're trying to hire technology people, programmers. And there's great programmers in this room. You guys should talk to them. You got Steve back there, John, Trevor. You know, there's great talent in this room that knows how to get any kind of application built in probably 24 hours or less before start of meetings. I care to count, but we're in the finance space. So like people know how like to do real-time, you know, algorithms on data streaming from, you know, all the different places. It's like so part of it is I didn't want to open up operation in Chicago. I'm getting to the point like we're pretty close to like bringing on these 2 tech guys in Chicago because it's something these hedge funds want from us. It's really, really cool technology, but it's hard to find those technology people in Michigan. I wrote a piece for Huffington Post about my never-ending search for an amazing web designer or a UI person. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I got some backlash, some positive things, and both sides of it. It was more so, I posted a job ad in Chicago, I did the interviews, and I got 25 responses, and the 7 people were great. In Michigan, there might be even more talent because of all the marketing places, but people aren't really looking to go to startups as much in Michigan. In Chicago, New York, Austin, it's everywhere. And so it's disappointing that we have this opportunity where a lot of investors want to use more money and all that, and we're giving equity to everyone. Everyone in our company is an owner. If you come to work, you're not working at our company. If you act like an owner and you own it and you're making revenue, you're figuring out new things, then you're at our company. We don't hire any employees. We used to do that, but it's no more than that. Because what happened was it was too reliant on like 2 or 3 people in the company. So by changing that, where everyone's an owner, everyone's affected by our revenues. And, there's a lot of transparency around that, but we only want to hire owners, only people that really want to build a company and see how a company that was this small could go and be this big, and then other spin-offs. Like we started a little VC arm. It's a small fund, but we started like we're funding other ideas that may help Benzinga, but may just be a sister company. So these kind of things we're trying to empower, but we want people that want to be owners. And Michigan has this, talented and bright workforce. What I'm trying to find is, how do we get that workforce to want to start new things up? I mean, I think it's like 90% of all new jobs are small businesses. I want to be responsible for creating 100,000 jobs. That's the goal that I have. Not just with Benzinga, but through, finding someone that's doing something like, and I've talked to people in the room where I was like, come on, you guys are amazing. Let's clone you, let's duplicate you so we can build more and more and more. And that's what it's about, and that's what gets the energy around here. It's really important to me. I take everyone at our company on different trips. So I took 2 guys, a guy who just started 2 weeks ago, I took him to Chicago for 2 days. His mind was like, after that trip, he was a new person. He's a developer. He's developed completely different. The stuff he's developed is just 100 times better than he was doing before because I took him to 10 startups. Like, he met with the CTO of Burroughs, he went to see Grubhub, he went there for a day, and he learned so much. But the thing that he really saw was the energy that all these startups that they were nothing like 6 months ago, and he's working on a completely new idea for us. And he's running it, and he's getting paid, and he's having fun doing this. But by being allowed to have that exposure, helped him so tremendously. So those are the kind of things that in Michigan it's sometimes hard to have that exposure. There's some great things going on here, and like we're in South, we're at 696 Telegraph, and you can always stop in and see our office and see what we're doing, and if there's ideas, whatever, we're open. We're pretty much there 6 days a week, and I hope we want Benzinga to be very successful. But we're trying to empower others to build and create and execute, because execution is what I've learned. These are ideas. Obviously, you need something to start, but execution is what I've learned is really hard to do, and execute properly. And then prove to yourself, hey, this is a model that can scale, because there's a lot of businesses that should be. And then we did raise money from founders of Groupon, Eric and Brad, Mike Bank. They have 4 public companies, so they're great. They're the best guys I know in the world of scaling companies, hands down. And they're on the private and public side because they're taking 5 companies public now, 6 companies public, and they're 42 years old. 6 companies public, and they're individuals for 2 weeks. So like these guys, I don't know how they do it, but they're like just. But I just try to mirror them and clone them in some respect. I just talk about the cloning thing. So they empower others. They just started another company that it'll probably do $20 million in sales this year. It's another company that no one knows about. No one in this room even knows about. It's not even on their site, it's not. And it'll do 20. They come up with these concepts, and they find a person that can execute, and they get them to run it. You know, like the guy had been, you know, so that kind of stuff is crazy. Like before I came here, I'll stop talking about this, but about one little story. Out in my basement, like 2 years ago, before I came here, I was on the phone with a guy who just sold his company to a public company for $2 billion. He, great guy, who was the CFO at one of the big food franchises before this public company bought his next company. I would never have the opportunity to, I was on the phone with more as a colleague versus asking, Bobby Kotick or Steve Jobs for advice. I would never have the opportunity to be on the phone if I didn't put myself out there to make mistakes. This guy is like a serious person that's like not just to be an investor, but be a big part of our company, and that changes the landscape of our company. You bring someone like this guy in, he can get whatever he wants, this guy, because when you make money for your investors, he made 100x for his original investors in the company, and 4x for the private equity investors. But when you make money for your investors, it's like a blank check. You get whatever you want to do your next thing. But he reached out to me. He's like, I see where you're trying to go. What if we changed it a little bit and did this? I think your company would be bigger than another company said, which is, if we were able to execute what he said and we did it and he's done it before, then, that's amazing, right? Like, replace me, let him be CEO. All I want to build is sustainable, successful companies with individuals who have a thirst and a strong desire to execute and win on a daily basis. That's all I want to do, and that's why I'm here. And, that's why I speak at these events, and that's my story. So if there's any questions, I didn't look at this, so I probably forgot the cool stuff. I know I talk too much. My wife's like,
No, you did not say too much. This is great. I want to ask 2 questions because they're kind of nuts and bolts, and then I'll take questions from the audience. Number 1, so far, how many folks do you have working for you / with you? And the second one is, what is it about your product that's different from other people? Why are companies attracted to you as a provider of information?
Yeah. So now there's around 32 people. 32 people, 33 people, because there's another outsourcing firm we use for development stuff now. That differentiator, that's key. Because if you just go to Benzinga, like, well, there's Market Watch, there's Street, there's all these different providers. Why would you go into a crowded space? My passion was always stocks. So I tried to get a job at a hedge fund. In that process, I started writing to the Street, I started making, great contacts, and I pitched this to a bunch of different companies. Like, there's no place to get unbiased information. There's places where you can see trading ideas. There's sites for that, but it's usually the people own it. I wanted help to find. I was always looking at when something happened, or like. So I heard this story yesterday. This guy, he was looking around his house, different products in his house. He saw a Keurig machine. He's like, okay, maybe Green Mountain. That's an interesting stuff. He has what's called Asperger's syndrome. He was asking us about the stock market. So it's like, they're companies, and you look at these companies, you can make, you can try to find ideas or things that you're using, and then you buy the stock. He's like, okay, well, how about like electricity stock? Let's buy electricity stock. You're always yelling at mom because she leaves the lights on, so they must make a lot of money. And then the dad's like, well, we already own electricity stock. So he went and looked around the whole house, and that's where he came up with the 3 Keurig machines. But so that concept of like finding those ideas, I used to do that all the time. I would sit in stores and watch when people look at the Apple computer, so they reacted when they introduced the Mac in '97 with the blue thing. So I wanted a place where these ideas could be shared, not necessarily long detailed analysis on a company, but when events happen, like so the PMI is is higher than what it's supposed to be or something. Everyone reports the news, but no one really delivers news that you can use. And that, which means is everyone will report the news, but I want to see what to do on that news. Be it in the stock market, be it politics, it doesn't affect my life. People like, I have a friend who does not read the news at all. How does that news change my life? Like, how does it impact my micro life, what I'm doing on a daily basis? And so I want what we do to impact you. So you guys can go, you're going to go read your news at the Wall Street Journal. We want you to. It's a partner. We want you to go read them. But we want to give you the next level, like what to do with that news. And so that's kind of our differentiator. So we have, you know, people that we're empowering that before had no idea how to like use an option strategy to make monthly income. Not even, you don't need the stock to go up. Literally, the stock stayed within like $20 range. And this is what these hedge funds do all day. They print, a lot of them print money, as you guys hear. I mean, the lottery was $660 million. The top 15 hedge funds last year each made more than that. You know, like, well, wait, it was like 30, it was like 50 hedge funds, I forget exactly, but they found these methods. So we're trying to bring out a few of these methods to the average person. And just people don't want to do that. It's like, you know, if something's hidden, don't bring it out, don't give it to everyone. So that's kind of what we're trying to go, and what hopefully differentiates us.
Let's take some questions from the audience. Go ahead.
Question, and a follow-up question on that, is when you started these businesses, are you a technical co-founder or more like the business co-founder? Are you a technical founder or business founder?
Steve, Trevor, John, they all know I'm I guess the business founder.
So
I should have been a technical founder. That was the big mistake.
How
I went to business school.
So in that situation, how did you find a technical co-founder to help you get your website up and doing the things that you had the vision of them doing?
So in college was my easiest one to find a technical co-founder. My Bookstone site, it was 20 and a half members is my technical co-founder. We were on campus, I put up signs on like poles. That's why there was no I mean, it's Craigslist in 98. Yeah, right. Yeah, so well, I put signs on street poles, but in this historic sense, like Benzinga, I tried. I went to Startup Weekend 3 years ago, where there's a guy, James, I forget, he was working out the gun shootout. And I was like, I pitched him, but like, again, like, people like to just do like this awesome, exciting, hey, we're gonna make green when red light turns green, your car will vibrate or something, so you know to go. People want to get a little catchy little thing, like Benzinga was a very big encompassing thing. I want to take events and bring ideas off events, not just the stock market. I want to be everywhere, eventually ubiquitous. But it's a big vision. It's like, it was hard to find that person. Now, if I was in maybe New York or Chicago, probably a lot easier. So it's hard. You got to put yourself out there. See, the mistake that I made in it, I went to the same kind of events. I didn't go to these, there's sometimes not events. There's a lot of online companies in Michigan, which is great. A lot of technology companies in Michigan that I didn't even know existed. I wrote that article and I got some emails from people. This was like I work at Ford, I do this, and I was like amazed. He's never been to any sort of DNewTech, Startup Weekend, Ann Arbor, never. So it's trying to you have to get creative with it. And then you get burned out, because you get burned out. And so I did get lucky, I found some guy, but he wasn't local and it was tough. When I started Benzinga, I had an amazing code tech person who built the first original thing. He was the chief guy at Commons. The problem was, getting married 4 months later. Oh. So we launched. We couldn't even put the Google ad code out. He was getting married a week later. I said bottle of champagne to his room, loved me, but he was on the honeymoon. So then I was sitting there with a site that was getting every day 5,000 people and making $0. Zero. Because there was I didn't know how to do the Google ad revenue. And I didn't know Steve Schwartz, so I could have easily he would now do it if I called him for a favor. I would think he would figure that out and put that out for me. But I didn't even go into those things at that point. So this was two and a half years ago that I found this guy named John, who's like a brother to me. He's in India. Great programmer, knows PHP and Drupal. That's what we were on. He's limited in figured out how to do crazy things, but he did all that and became kind of a co-founder. But that's the hard part. And what I would suggest, my only advice on that is try to figure out, maybe you can build a prototype for cheap. Maybe freelance it out. Not even a great prototype. Maybe it's it's subpar and you're going to have to redo it. But that way you can maybe show someone a little bit of something. Because that way they have something to get interested in. So when I was pitching my thing to a couple of the guys before, I knew anyone here, I didn't have a prototype. I just had it in my brain. And as you guys probably tell, my brain can talk fast. Maybe it's a little scary. And so this guy's I want to work with this guy. I found I'm hearing myself. I want to talk to some guy that's, calm, cool, and collective. And I'm jumpy, So if I would have had a prototype on a screen and I showed it to things hey, that's kind of interesting. Hey, what if we did it this way? And I would say, you know what? We started off and we worked together, and then there would be something there. So that, if I would have done a little bit more on my own, then went back with like profile, that's something I can suggest. But that's the hard part, because everyone has to make a paycheck, you know? You can't just, you know, you gotta do it at night. It's hard. I started this company when I had a 3-month ago. I didn't eat for, I don't know, 2 days. I know it doesn't look like that, but I literally didn't eat for 2 days. The most anxiety I've ever had, because I left, you know, the job, and, you know, I don't know if I can get another paycheck. Anyone else?
Great. How did you come up with the name Benzinga?
Good
The
question.
question was, how do you come up with the name Benzinga?
Good question. Naming a company is always fun. There's a lot of people with some interesting names. So the guy back there has an interesting one. I wanted something that was, I own not a lot of domain names. I mean, I own like 100. I don't know if that's a lot. I guess it's probably a lot. That's a lot. I own so many. I own like every Michigan you can imagine. Michigan carpet, Michigan everything. I don't own those anymore. I don't know. But why are they buying anything Michigan? Like Michigan, you know, I just thought there was something we should, whatever. So I do own some good domains like Stock News, Corporate Watchdog, just a bunch of names. I wanted something we could build a brand off and had a little bit of like, you know, zest to it. It was a name that I made up. My grandfather and I made up a long time ago. Benzinga, Benzinga. It was like, it was the thing that was a little catchy. If you like, I can see a serious radio commercial like with different accents, just yelling Benzinga, Benzinga. It's something that can catch on eventually. But you know, the other name I have is I think Plomero. That's what it's going with. But then I was like, it sounds like a plumber too much. And then I was like, no. Then like Bloomberg is the one that's the most powerful, one of the most powerful companies in the world. So I was like, maybe Raznick, but I was like, that's too about me. I don't know, you know. So is that? But then how do you spell this? If Raznick could have a C and a K, then maybe. But the name stuff's overrated. Not. Oh, and I wanted a name in the early part of the alphabet. When I was my college bookstore, we were on Yahoo #3. It was gold. I mean, our business went from doing 2 orders a day to doing 16 orders a day, 22. It was like just that adds up 120. And but one thing I find is that we spend too much time focusing on names. So I'm starting this. I've been doing angel investments for the last couple of years. I'm an investor in Twitter through Sumize. Sumize got bought by Twitter. I invested in Sicily, got bought by Salesforce. And I've been doing it just like, I'll email this group and each one puts in like $5,000 to $8,000 and say, like, people are saying, how do you call this money to invest? I did it. I scraped this up. I started. There's no like funds from like, you know, parents that funded this stuff. There's no, you know, this is me just scrappy and hustling, or at least trying to hustle. And so when these opportunities came to me because of the people I knew, I would just email out and get like, you know, 5,000 here, 5,000 there, and then allowed me to get in deals like Twitter. But I didn't even mean to get in with these deals. I wanted to get in for the network. So I'm in, the, you know, and over time, so like these guys wanted to invest more money in these startups. I'm like, you know, it's a pain for me to email out each time because I turned down a deal, fab.com. I didn't even turn it down, but like it was, I knew the guy started it, and he said he started. I'm like, oh, but I just, you know. So we eventually just like sort of formalized a fund. And there's money in it, and like picking a name for that. It's the hardest thing ever. So I just want a name that's cool, and every name you want is taken. And so if you can figure out a new way to get rid of .com and a new thing, that'd be great. But that's now I'm doing an LY, so get an LY and be set. You know. Anyone else? Yeah, you.
I would like to ask you, what is the single most important quality you believe a person who is thinking about starting a company must like the single most important quality?
I think they need to be, yeah, so he asked, what's the single most important quality when starting a company? I think I can't say it's single. I think there's 2 or 3 most important things. I won't be as long-winded with my answer. My wife will get us do that thing again. So I guess it's not something to her because she's, you know, giving us answers. But no, seriously, being flexible. When I interview, and because we're trying to hire certain people, I try to question that, like, are they very set in their ways, in the sense that you have a notion, you're coming to build something. So we're building this product platform, and it may not work to what I think it's going to be. So I want that person to be so dejected because the sales aren't what they were in the first month. I want to see that he's willing to be, or she is willing to be flexible in, you know, in the idea creation and trying different things. That's one thing. The second thing is, you know, execution. I want, you know, you need someone that can talk about that idea and be creative and think about the business elements why this is competitive, why, hey, can someone else come out and write articles? Sure. So what are our barriers to entry? What are the reasons why we can be successful? Do we think we'll be around for the next 50 years? You know, how do we create that moat? So you want someone to think like that. That's going to be start a company. And third is, can that person get other people excited about what he's doing? And that doesn't mean, or she's doing, that doesn't mean you have to be amazed at that at first. You know, it may take time. Remember when I started, I didn't have anyone at first, you know? It took time to get excited. Now I have some of the most excited people there are at the office till 1 a.m. I actually just brought an air mattress in the office today because like there's a kid that's sleeping on the couch like 1 day a week or 2 days a week because then he'll feel like driving the 20 minutes back and he wants to get back to doing the work. There's a couple kids that are doing that. So if we just had a shower in our place, it'd be like probably 10 people sleep at that place. 100%. We have like an 8,000 square foot place and we only use like 3,000 of it right now. You know, I got big visions of, you know, grandeur, it could be overflowing the space. I just called the landlord one day. You know, but that's, you know, that's what you gotta, I think, need to have, or you can't do it all. And you gotta have you can't care what people think about you. You can't care what, like, you gotta have a hard shell. If I did, like, I've gotten emails that you wouldn't believe, you know, from people you know in the space and, you know, in this area, like, I'm friends with these guys, but, like, because you know, I have a hard shot. I want people to like say, we'll say that like, I don't like Benzinga because like, I want you not to like have to feel like you're gonna say a negative thing to me. Like I want that. Like I want that negative feedback. I know most people don't. I want positive too, sure, but I think you should covet. You know, when people have negative things to say, it helps you. Like that's, you know, and actually some of the negative feedback I have on my wall because it motivates me too. It's like no, you could never do this. And that's happened numerous times, you know. If you were at the start of Detroit, and you hear when I was told, like, I don't know, just things in school, right? Would like go to the next grade, or you know, those kind of things. I couldn't read, or that. I'll never be able to read the rest of my life. That's my mom's favorite one because she was distraught for 2 weeks, and she just ran to my principal in elementary school, and it's a whole thing now. Now the elementary school teachers trying to track down the teachers telling her to read. It's a mess, and I have to get these phone calls, but that's so. You got to have that flexibility. You got to have that passion to be successful and be flexible. Because if you don't, you'd be stuck. There's one other question there.
How did you get your first major?
I think you said how'd you get your?
The question was, how did you get your first major client or customer?
Yes. How do you first get your financial customer? That is the trick, right? That is the hard part. Because how do you get someone that you don't know, especially if you're in Michigan? Benzinga. Heck is that? That was the hard. I had to get over that. And that took a long time with the name. It may not have been the best name for a financial company because Benzinga, what is that? Like the trade should have been there. I wanted something that could be everywhere. But what I did was, you remember it. I got denied 3 times from the same guy. They wouldn't call me back at all. And now we're best friends with them. They don't probably don't remember this. They were so mean. So mean. So I mean everything. I did everything you could possibly imagine. Remember, it was like blood, sweat, and tears. If I didn't get a sale, I couldn't eat. Literally, like that's kind of what it was. Not physically, like I couldn't eat, but like I wanted to penalize myself. So what I learned that from reading a book. Max Fisher, he's from here, the oil guy. He's not alive anymore, but he's Fisher, Ohio State School of Business. He once told me that when he was younger, when I was in my 20s. When he didn't like get stuff done or contracts or work done, he would skip a meal. So that was my way of to like learn from history. So I have all these guys that I take a little bit from, and then hopefully create this amazing person, right? So my first customer, I actually interviewed him, and on our show, and I interviewed him. I had this show where I interviewed CEOs, I interviewed CEO Ford, CEO Domino's, interviewed him, and a couple months later, like. We created this feed here if you want to take a look. And they sent it to their guys and they really liked what you're doing. And that's all she wrote. And then a couple months later, it takes a long time to get these things going. These contracts take a long time in the B2B world. B2C, totally different thing. Groupon's selling, 10,000 things. But if you're in the B2B world, you gotta be prepared to be in for the long haul and follow up. Did I say follow up? That was basically how you got it. Are you doing something in B2B that you're trying to get a customer?
Yes.
So if it's a thing that doesn't cost you that much, like say the service you're delivering, one piece of advice I would say is like, try to just get them to say yes and give it to them free or something. Like give it like a 6-month contract and don't charge for the first 2 months. Don't worry about the money. If what you're doing is good, money will follow. If what you're doing is good, you surround yourself with the right people, money will follow. So I know that. Yeah, because if what you're doing is good, money will follow. So and you surround yourself with the right people. So my whole thing with Benzinga was I need to surround myself with the right people to build this company. And then the question is, what are we doing? If what we're doing is good, and if it's good, then I'll figure out how to make money, you know? And then you gotta make money. At the end of the day, it's all these startups, people are starting startups left and right, and I love that. But I also don't think sometimes it's the right thing for a person just to go do a startup. They may want to go join a startup and learn and like build there because it's hard. It's not you know. So you may want to join a startup and do that. But if you're delivering value, you're doing something really good, money will typically follow, and that's the way you can test yourself. So like, we didn't have a subscription product. So that site that took you to is Benzinga.com. It's our free site. We created that Benzinga Pro service, which is real-time news, real-time audio. I want to see if people would pay us monthly for our fee. If they wouldn't, if they get it for free, then but if they pay us monthly, then there's something of value that they're getting. So that's why we wanted to put that out there, is to see, you know. And then if we are doing the right things, like yesterday we sent out an email and we got like 15 feedback items within 10 minutes. And how do we do that? Like, so we said the 10th person to send something back. The radio stations do. So like you got to do unique things because everyone is so darn busy in their day. So you got to figure out the tricks to get that kind of feedback. Any last questions or am I cut off?
Let's go just one more. So we do have a couple other speakers. I think you'll be able to stick around a little bit afterwards.
I want to stay and talk, but I drove down my wife, and we have now a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. We have a young babysitter that has to go do homework. And so I don't know, but if you guys, like, I'll leave my cards here. If you ever, like, you don't have to set up calls to me, my cell phone's on it, and I'll call people back, or you can email me, or what have you. I try to make myself really accessible, because I want to, whatever I've learned from getting funding, because funding should be your goal, but like, funding is a nice thing that comes with it. It doesn't need to be your goal, because if you want to give up ownership to someone else, if you want to have, it can be great. It's a nice badge of approval. But like, if you guys have questions at all, I want to pay that for because I was on the other side before. I wanted a job at a startup so bad, at a VC firm. So I said to myself, no matter what, when I find that person that's more hungry and driven, that's a Dan Gilbert line, PhD. Credit where credit's due. Or I'm going to get an email in 2 minutes, probably, and someone's going to report me. It's a little crazy. So, I wanted like to help wherever I can because I was on the other side where it was so hard for me to get jobs from local guys here, like where I wanted that opportunity. So if there's anything I could ever do to help any of you guys or any of us at our company, if you have a startup that you're working on, you can write an article or what have you. We distribute it to like 3,000 places, so like you'll see your name, you'll see it like a USA Today and that kind of stuff. We syndicate license, kind of like the Associated Press for business. That's part of it. They pick up certain stories of ours. We have a syndication over there, they pick up certain things. So sorry for gabbling on anyone else.
Well, let's go ahead and cut it off there.
Right, awesome.
This has been great. Thank you very much.
I'll leave some of my cards on the back table if we leave soon. I don't know, but feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Great. We are going to go ahead and switch